I like to start with asking people about their childhood because, in my opinion, a lot of your childhood shapes who you ultimately end up becoming as a young person.
My birth mom, it was just many men in and out her bed and as well as my bed. I can't even tell you the age that I lost my virginity.
So, can we acknowledge that there was some sexual abuse as well?
Yes. I was in pull-ups actually. And I remember when the situation happened, I remember I went to my birth mother because I was bleeding. And she just sat me in the sink and like kind of like put my bottom in the sink, and she was just like, "You're gonna be okay." Like it was nothing. I actually remember the first time that I did drugs. I know I was between the age of 10 and 14. I never forget, he was sitting in a recliner and his feet was up, he had the music playing, and he was grinding it, and he put it on a mirror, and he sniffed some of it and he passed the mirror to me. So when he passed it to me, I did it. I sniffed it, and now I know it was cocaine. And I just remember the music being so loud, and I just remember his friends being over there, and I remember having sex with multiple men.
So, along with that, you start using other drugs as well?
Yeah, heroin. I did the tranquilizer pills, of course. The volumes, the ecstasy, crystal meth. I did crack cocaine, PCP, K2. I was in them streets. I was very promiscuous. I was not having sex with condoms, and I get pregnant. When I had got pregnant, I was real sick. I went and took a HIV test, and it came back positive.
Do you continue to do sex work while you're pregnant?
Yeah.
Are you still using and drinking alcohol?
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talk with Koiya. I am your host, Koiya, and as you know, this podcast is brought to you by Talk, Test, Treat. If you are in the Central Florida location and looking for an area to get tested, visit www.talktestcfl.com. Today, another special guest is joining us. She is an HIV tester and counselor. She is also a person who can link you to PrEP and a person with lived experience as well. Help me welcome Meca.
Thank you.
You are welcome, Meca. I am so happy to have you on the podcast.
Yes, I'm finally here.
You are finally here. So we linked via Facebook.
Yes.
You saw the Talk with Koiya page on Facebook, and you sent me a message, and you were like, "Hey, I want to tell my story." I was like, "All right, well, tell me more about you."
Definitely.
And then once we got to talking, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is somebody I need on the podcast."
Yes. Thank you.
So thank you for your willingness to share your story with us today. But we do start every episode with the Talk with Koiya card game. So I'm going to have you pull a card, read it out loud, and then answer it.
Okay. All right. Who is at risk to contact an STI? That answer is simple. Anyone who's having sex. Anyone. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 90. You can be 13. If you're having sex, you are definitely at risk for an STD, STI, etc.
So true. And I think a lot of times people think, oh, it's a young person thing. And if you know anything about the villages up in Ocala, it is running rampant up there with the old people. But yeah, a lot of people have this perception that that's a young people thing. Like, I don't have to worry about that once I get to a certain age. But to your point, it does not discriminate age, creed, race, any of the things. So great answer. Well, I think it's time to hop into your story, Meca, because you have such a great one. So let's get into it. I like to start with asking people about their childhood because, in my opinion, a lot of your childhood shapes who you ultimately end up becoming as a young person, maybe even as an adult. So what was your childhood like? I know you were raised by a single mom. What was that like living with her?
Well, my birth mom was not. It was just many men in and out her bed, and as well as my bed. Um, it was my household growing up. It was don't ask, don't tell, don't open my door if I'm not here. I don't care who it is. You better not open my door. Um, do as I say, not as I do. Um, just I really have no place. I had no voice. I was pretty much told what to do. I mean, a kid, yeah, you give the kids the guide way to, become, young teens and stuff like that, but my childhood was never like that. I had to grow up fast. I was forced to grow up fast. I don't even I can't even tell you the age that I lost my virginity. I just know that I was a kid, so.
Okay, so was there any type of substance use in your home growing up? Did you see things? Were you sheltered? What was that like?
Sheltered, no. I've seen a lot of things, but I so wish, I wish that I can say that my birth mom was an addict, because that would kind of make me like, okay, well, this happened to me because she was an addict. But actually, no. Like, my birth mom, she actually worked for the public defender's office. So, just to give you like a little as to, the type of collar she wore. And, behind those doors were not the person that it wasn't your normal mom. I thought every household was like my household until I got like in my early teens. So yeah, I didn't grow up around alcohol and drugs, because like I said, my mom wasn't an addict, but her many men, I they would drink, and my birth mom would also have a drink now and again, but I wouldn't say that she was an alcoholic.
Okay. So, but you did see, by way of the men that would come around, them using certain things,
Right.
and you would see her drinking a lot,
Right.
excessively.
Right.
So you
Right.
probably normalized, alcoholism early.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought that, like I said again, I thought that's what every household was doing. Like I thought it was okay for me to, have a beer before going to school in the fifth grade.
Wow.
So, you know, lighting the cigarette off of the stove, taking puffs off of it, you know, a beer or a drink got sat down and me drinking some. I thought it was normal.
So you did that at a pretty early age.
Very young age.
What's the earliest you can remember doing something like that?
Well, I remember being young, like I know I wasn't in pull-ups. I was older than being in pull-ups, but I know I wasn't 10 years old yet. And I remember getting cigarette butts out the ashtray, like I was smoking them. I remember, like I was fairly young, but I remember the first time I actually took a drink around an adult. It was my birth mother's one of her partners at the time, and it was me and my best friend, and he was like, "Yeah, I know y'all be out there drinking," and he was just like, "I got something for y'all," and he just gave us beers. So, and we were just drinking.
Wow.
So, I believe I was around that time. I believe I was like, I want to say like in the sixth or seventh grade, because that's when I met her, in the sixth or seventh grade, and that was the beginning of our friendship that we still have to this very day.
And it kind
You
of
know, I was so it make me kind of emotional right now because just by talking about her because I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful for her and her mom.
Wow.
You know, I remember days where a punishment in my household was going to school with the same clothes on for a week or two. That was a punishment in my household. Not only that, I was wet in the bed up until I was a teenager, like a official teenager, still wet in the bed because I thought that if I wet the bed, no one would get in the bed with me. But I was wrong.
Wow.
You know, that was like a defense mechanism for me, but it didn't work. But when I met my best friend in school, I was in the stall crying, and I don't know how she knew I was crying. I just don't even know because we were on two separate sides of the school. And she came in the stall with me and she hugged me, and she went in her backpack and she pulled out some clothes. So this lady been watching me, and she gave me them clothes, and that was our routine. You know, I would meet up with her and I would get dressed outside before going to school, and I would give her the clothes back, and then it went to whereas though I would stay the night over her house. Her mom didn't know. And I'd be like, okay, all right, well, I'll see you tomorrow. But I would go around back and, you know, I would stay the night, and this happened. This was going on maybe like a couple weeks. I don't know exactly how long. Birth mother, like it was nothing, you know. So when her mom found out, and she was just like, no, that's not, we can't do this. I have to meet your mom.
Yeah.
You know, we got to do this the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So that all happened, and you know, I went to school one day, and then my best friend mom came up to school to get me one day, and she was just like, hey, you're going to be staying with me for a while, you know. And I stayed with her for a while, but every child yearn for their parent, you know. I know me, I wanted to be with my parent, but I didn't want the things that came with it, but I wanted to be with my parent. And I stayed there for maybe like 2 years, and then I went back home to the same situation.
So when you say you didn't want the things that came with what came with living with your parent, you acknowledge that there was some alcoholism that
Yeah,
took place. You acknowledge that there was multiple men in and out of your mom's home.
correct.
Can you say that there was some form of abuse, whether it be mental, physical, or even sexual?
Yes, it was every type of abuse that was imagined. Like I remember getting beat with a extension cord, and it was the thick orange extension
Mm.
cords. And I don't know what happened. I think I got like suspended from school for touching a girl's butt or something. And my birth mom came home, and she asked, hey, you know, you asked your kid, did you get a shower before you went to bed? And I was like, no. And she was like, get up and get a shower. And I went in the shower, and she came in there when I was wet, and got her beaten with that extension cord,
Wow.
you know. And about a week and a half, 2 weeks from then, I wanted to play basketball at my school, and I had to get a physical. And I went to my doctor, and my doctor is like, my doctor knew what was going on in my household. And when she was like, she did this, you know, and I was just like, yeah. So she wound up getting arrested, but me and my other two siblings, like, we tried to go with our birth dad, but he was he was an addict, so that wasn't a good fit. So they put us right back into the home that her man at the time was occupying with my birth mother. And she came home from jail and came right back into that environment. So the system definitely failed us.
There's also a part in the story where you say you used to wet the bed so that, well, in hopes of no one getting in the bed with you as well.
Right.
So can we acknowledge that there was some sexual abuse as well?
Yes.
I know it's probably hard to remember because one, it's so long ago, and you have quite the story of a lot of things that have happened to you. So I'm sure just based upon trauma that has happened, a lot of it you just try to get rid of and not remember. But can you remember as to how early the sexual abuse was, and do you remember who it was with?
Okay, I remember I was as young. This is the only incident I remember that I can remember as young. I was in pull-ups actually, and I remember when the situation happened. I remember I went to my birth mother because I was bleeding, and she just sat me in the sink and like kind of like put my bottom in the sink, and she was just like, "You're gonna be okay." Like it was, it was nothing.
So it seems like she knew that you were
Yeah,
sexually
I
abused.
of course, like of course.
Do you think she had part in it?
Well, knowing
Yes.
is knowing. Like if you know what's going on, you know what's going on.
Correct.
That's why I just sometimes I just be like, man, I wish I can say that she was an addict, but she wasn't an addict. So what was her excuse for her behavior? You know, could it have been mental health issues? I don't know, because in our community, mental health issues is not discussed.
Right.
So from that age on, like I said again, I thought every household was like that. So I thought that if a man did not touch me sexually, I didn't like I got that.
You didn't have any value. That was how you felt like you brought value.
Yeah, exactly, like that. I thought that, like, if a man don't touch me sexually, that means that he don't love me.
Mhm.
So because that's how I thought, once again, every household was. But eventually I found out that the household I was living in was really dysfunctional.
Yeah. To say the least, amongst a lot of other things.
Yeah.
As a child, you should be receiving love just because of who you are.
Yeah.
And as a mother, you should be protecting your child from
Yeah.
any type of predator that may be sexually abusing her, looking at her a certain way, let alone taking it that step to actually, you know, sexually abuse your daughter.
Yeah.
So, one, I'm so sorry that happened to you,
Yeah.
Meca.
I tell my inner child that all the time. Like, I did nothing wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, even though that was like, I'm 42 now, I'll be 43 this year. That was like 40 years ago, when it all started. Like, I did nothing wrong, and I got to keep reminding myself that.
Right. And so, how do you start to internalize a lot of this, right? You're being sexually abused at a young age. You're seeing alcoholism at probably its heights at a young age. You're seeing the men that your mom is bringing around struggle with substance abuse and, doing drugs and all of these things. As a young teenager, young adult, do you start ever engaging in any of that because you've normalized it at an early age?
Actually, I did. I actually remember the first time that I did drugs. The first time I did drugs, I believe I know I was between the age of 10 and 14. I don't really remember the exact age, but I met this guy. It's always with a guy. I met this guy, this adult guy, and he was just like, hey, he wanted to introduce me to his brother. And his brother wants me to take some pictures. So I'm like, okay, I'll take some pictures for him. I'm fairly good looking, fairly. So, but the pictures that he wanted me to take were nude photos. Me, I'm a kid. This grown man, real grown man, is asking me to do that, and like it didn't like it wasn't like I was like I didn't find that weird because of everything that was normalized in my household. I was just like more like okay. So I remember the price. I remember he used to give me $50 to take pictures for him. $50. And that was when that's around the time that I knew that I had something that guys want and I can get paid for it.
Mm.
So that right there had me going to school with penny candy, that had me buying lunch, that had me getting all the things that kids around my age was getting. So I would continue to take the pictures for Guy. And then Guy asked me to, hey, won't you, by the way, I'm not from Florida, I'm from Baltimore.
And you're living in Baltimore at this time?
Yeah, I'm living in Baltimore. I'm living in Baltimore at that time. So Guy asked me, hey, I need you to go to New York and meet my brother and grab something for me. And of course, this was before 9/11, way before 9/11. So I'm like, okay, sure. He gives me an envelope and he says, do not open this envelope. And I did what I was told. I don't open the envelope. I goes to New York, gets the book bag, go up on a plane, comes back on a train, and Guy's girlfriend didn't come pick me up. Usually she would have, but she didn't. So he came and got me, went to his crib, and I gave him the book bag, and he did everything that he was going to do. And then he had a grinder, and I seen him. I never forget, he was sitting in a recliner, his feet was up, he had the music playing, and he was grinding it, and he put it on a mirror. And he sniffed some of it, and he passed the mirror to me, and I'm like, right there in that second, I gotta choose wisely. Am I gonna do this, whatever it is? Mind you, I don't even know what it is. I just know that this guy gives me money to be able to get things. If I do it, that'll make me win points, more points with him. If I don't do it, then what's gonna happen? Is he gonna stop giving me money?
And you're a young kid. You don't know how to make those type of
Yeah, I
decisions in
don't.
that moment. You probably aren't brave enough to say no.
Yeah.
You can't even say the word no at home. So you haven't developed that skill set to know how to do things like that.
Right. So when he passed it to me, I did it. I sniffed it, and now I know it was cocaine. And I just remember the music being so loud, and I just remember his friends being over there, and I remember having sex with multiple men. And when it was done and over with, he just dropped me off. So that was my first experience with drugs.
How did that make you feel after? Obviously, this is your first time ever doing drugs, but I can imagine that's your first time ever having sex with multiple men in one night. Like, was your body sore? Internally, how'd you feel? Physically, how'd you feel?
Well, it wasn't the first time that I had sex with multiple men a night.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna say it was the first time I had sex with multiple men a night that wasn't really. I didn't care. I was on drugs.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was 3 guys that had sex with me or 6. I don't know. I just remember coming in, going out, coming in, going out. So there's that part. And what else did you say?
How did you feel? Like, obviously, you just did drugs for the first time, so that has an effect on you. But then you also have had sex with multiple people altogether.
Right.
Internally, were you hurting? Physically, were you hurting?
I was so confused because I knew that my birth father, I knew that he was on this substance. And I remember sitting on the steps, and I remember seeing addicts walk back and forth, and I would look at them and be like, what is it about that thing that's got them out here like that? Like, I don't get it. So when that happened, that's when I seen me walking up and down that street. So yeah.
Wow. And I'm sure that's so much to process as a young adult. Because you're
Yeah.
saying you're anywhere between 12 and 14.
Yeah, 12 and 14. Yeah.
Your first time
Yep.
doing coke, also your first time Having multiple partners in one night. So I want to back up a little bit because you said this wasn't your first time having multiple partners in one
Right.
night. When is the other time that you can at least remember?
Um, I really don't. I really can't remember. But like I said, my mom had multiple men in her bed, and like if like she might, let's just say if she had two guys over, one in the morning, one at night. I'm sure one in the morning, I had one in the morning, one at night. If they came in my room, you feel me? I just can't. I can't say, oh yeah, I actually did that at a young age, but I'm pretty sure, it did happen.
Yeah, and that's normal with trauma. Things that are traumatic at a very early age, it's hard to remember because you've tried to escape this
Yeah.
trauma and get it out of your head. So that's part of the reason why you don't remember it. So, this is your first time doing drugs at a very early age. Do you continue to do drugs? Do you say, "Okay, no, it's a one and done after that," or what happens next?
Actually, I believe it or not, I stopped doing that substance, and I started doing smoking weed. And as I got older, when I was in my early 20s, I believe I was turning 21 or 22. One of those birthdays, I was involved with a female. It's always a female. I was involved with a female, and when I met her, she was on drugs. And I'm just like, that made me think about the drug that I did. So I'm like, hey, you see what that stuff does to people. Like, don't, you got to chill with doing that, or I'm not dealing with you. Like, she would neglect her son. Like, a lot of things she was neglecting. So she was like, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. And me, what I know now, the lady didn't stop. She just covered it up a little better, a little more. So I thought that she did stop. And on my 21st birthday, I went and got her some drugs from where she goes to get it at. And when I got the drug, it was heroin, not fentanyl, heroin. So I bring it back to her on my birthday. Hey, you've been doing so good. I got this for you. And she like, you want some? I'm like, nah, I'm good. And then I'm seeing how it is making her feel, and then I'm like, well, I can do a little bit. It ain't gonna. So after I did that heroin, I have arrived. Like, no marijuana, no nothing can top that feeling of that heroin that I felt. I felt like I was real arrogant. I was real like I picked up the vibes from the guys that I was with up
Mm.
until that point. So if they was aggressive with me, that's how I was when I was on her. When I was aggressive, if it whatever the situation was, if they was cocky, I was cocky. So I just kind of bottled all that up into one and created a demon.
So after your first time using heroin, do you become addicted?
No, I
Okay.
haven't. I didn't become addicted that very first time, but I did do it a second time, which is the next day. And
Okay.
I did do it a third time, which is the next day,
Okay.
you know. And when all my money ran out, I'm like, hey, you know, why do I feel like this? And she was like, oh, I forgot to tell you, if you do it a certain amount of days, you become addicted.
Uh,
So now I'm like, survival mode. I don't have any money and I feel like crap and I'm pooping on myself. Something has got to give. And that's when I entered the life of crime. The life of prostitution. You know, anything that I can do to get another fix. That's what I did.
wow. And at this point, you can only imagine the things that have you have experienced as a young person. It's what you become to know, right? Using your body to get what you
Yeah.
want. You have living at home with your mom, men who are coming in and out of your room using your body. Then you find this man who's like, take pictures for me using your body to get what you want. So I can imagine when you fall into a state of addiction, you don't have any money. The first thing you think is, I know how to use my body to get what I want.
Right.
So is this how you start prostitution or sex work?
Actually, yes. But mind you, I was doing that before that to, to get the things that I wanted. So I guess you can say that I was doing that way before I started the drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
But it just came out when I
More.
started the heroin. So I started. I was doing anything. I was selling my vagina, your vagina, everybody vagina is for sale. So yeah.
So along with that, you start using other drugs as well?
Yeah.
What were some of the drugs that you were using at the time?
Let me see. So of course alcohol. Alcohol is my beginning and my end. I'm an addict, but first and foremost, I identify as an alcoholic because that's what brought me to my knees. Alcohol was always the beginning and the end of every story for me. I go to jail, come home, it start with a drink. It ends with a drink. When I ain't got no more money in my pocket, I got a couple change, I can go and get me a drink. It always started and ended. So as long as I don't take that first drink, I'm not gonna take that drug. So but yeah.
So what were some of the things, like obviously we know early on you said cocaine, then we know you got introduced to heroin. There was also marijuana as well.
I've did fentanyl. But when I did fentanyl, it wasn't as popular as it is now. When I did fentanyl, it wasn't called fentanyl. It was called like a tranquilizer, and that's what I would look for because that's what I want. That. I want something that's knocking me out all day. And matter of fact, I want what Sally had over there that she overdosed and died off of. That's what I want. Not saying that I want to overdose and die, but that's the best stuff. If you ain't dying from it, I don't want it. So yeah, so I did heroin. I did the tranquilizer pills, of course. The volumes, the ecstasy. I in my drug addiction, I did all those drugs. I did crystal meth. I did crack cocaine. What else? PCP, K2. So yeah.
You've pretty much done it all.
Yeah.
And I know when we spoke previously, you told me it was even so bad at one point you were willing to drink hand sanitizer to get your fix.
So it wasn't that I was willing to drink it. I did drink it.
Oh.
I've drank hand sanitizer by just taking the extra stuff out of it. That I'm not gonna say how it's prepared, but yeah, I've drank hand sanitizer on many occasions.
Wow. And at this point, are you realizing like, hey man, I might have an addiction?
Well, I always knew that I had an addiction, but I was a product of my environment and I didn't know how to get out of that environment because again, I would go to jail and I would come home, I would have nowhere to go. So, but I know where I do have to go, and I can go to the streets. I've been locked up for a couple years, couple months. I got a little weight on me. The ass fat, you know what I mean? Got a little bit of titties, I'm good, you know what I mean? So yeah, I would go back to the street and I would lose it all in a week.
So from this, I know you say you don't remember a lot of your early years, but from the time you would say you were like 12 to 14 when you first start hanging with this guy doing coke for the first time, all the way up to maybe your early 20s, would you say you kind of dabbled in alcohol and substance abuse all throughout that time?
Yeah.
Up until you're about 23, 24, and then you
the
get
heroin.
pregnant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I got pregnant. I'm so sorry. I think I was like 24, 25 when I
Okay.
got pregnant. I'm pretty sure.
And did you get pregnant from someone, because, you did say that, you were doing sex work,
Right.
you were selling your body and
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. Everybody body.
Did you was this someone that you were in a relationship with, or did you get pregnant by someone you were just on the?
Okay. So when I got pregnant, um, I was dating. Well, I'm not even gonna say dating. The guy had a few dollars, so hey, we dating. We dating. You got a few dollars, we dating. So I'm with this guy, and he rents a room. And the guy that he rents a room from, the guy that I was seeing that was renting the room, he didn't have any more money, but the guy who building it did have the money. So I'm like, okay, jackpot. This guy got a bookstore. He has buildings. He has, so I'm gonna see what's up with him. So I started dating him. Once again, you have money, we dating. So I started going over seeing him and not the other guy anymore. So me and him are seeing each other. We're having sex, and I get pregnant. And I'm like, well, it's to be expected. I mean, I was in them streets. I was very promiscuous. I was not having sex with condoms. I just got it however, you know. And when I had got pregnant, I was real sick. I was very sick. And I got all the tests and everything like that, and everything came back to what it came back as. And my godmother like, why you keep getting sick? And I'm like, I don't know. And I went and took a HIV test, and it came back positive. So
Prior to taking an HIV test, has you taken any other STI, STD tests?
I have.
Okay, and did you come back positive for any of those
I have. Yeah.
while being pregnant?
Yeah.
What were some of the
Yeah.
things you came back positive for?
I've had chlamydia. I've had every STD that's out.
So while you were pregnant, you had gonorrhea, you had chlamydia, you
Yeah.
had trach.
Yeah.
You had all of them.
You know what? I believe. I mean, and this my story. I had every STD except for syphilis.
Okay. So all of them except for syphilis.
Yeah.
Syphilis you knew you had.
Yeah.
But at this point where you get the STI testing, you had not gotten tested for HIV.
I have. I've been tested for HIV before then.
Okay.
So, like, I just knew, I ain't got that. I know I don't have that, because, like I said, I was, like, in and out of, jails and stuff like that, and they give us tests in there.
Right.
So I knew I was good. I
Okay.
knew it wasn't that,
Okay.
but it was that.
So fast forward, you come to find out, you go take your test. Walk me through that experience. What was the call like when you got into the office? How did
Okay.
they tell you all the things?
So back when I got tested, we didn't have how you go in there and you got the tablets.
My chart.
We didn't have that. We had a notebook. Excuse me. We had a binder on the wall, and they would look, and they would find your name, find your 2 letters of your last name, 3 letters of your first name, and they will pull the notebook out, and that was my whole chart right there. And I remember my godmother like, yeah, maybe you should get a HIV test done. And I'm like, what? No, I know I don't have that. Who does she think she is?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I get one done, and when I got it done, when it came back, I had went back to the clinic to get my results. And at that time, my daughter's father was with me. So I'm just like, all right, I already know about the rest. Just give me my HIV results, because I know I don't have that. I know I don't. And I remember seeing on that paper, positive written across that paper. Not no plus sign, but I remember seeing big positive written in bold letters, And he flipped the page over, and he was like, well, your results haven't came back yet. He was like, and he asked me, have I talked to a midwife? And I was like, no. He was like, yeah, well, you need to talk to a midwife. before you get your results, maybe you should take another test. So he had me take the whole test over again. So I took the whole test over again, and this time I came back to get the result. My daughter's father wasn't with me, and the lady came in the room, and she told me and she wasn't even like, hey. It was just like, you got HIV. It wasn't, I wasn't asking nobody to hold me and pamper me, but it was just so like,
Nonchalant.
yeah, it was
You
just
wanted a
like,
little bit more empathy.
yeah, come on now. Yeah, give me a peer.
Yeah.
We didn't have peers in my days,
Right, right.
So, but yeah, she told me, and after she told me, like, I remember looking up to the ceiling, and everybody know how those lights are in doctor's offices. They so bright.
Yes.
And I remember just looking at the light, and I just remember it just being so bright, just too bright. And I think I looked up because I think I was getting ready to cry or something like that. So then the doctor came in like, golly, she didn't even let me get my head down before she left out.
Yeah.
So she left out, doctor came in, okay, well, and then he verifies it. And I'm just like, no. I'm like, are you sure? That is my birthday correct? Can you check that again? And he was like, no. He was like, it's you. So I was in denial. I did not want to believe it. But why not? I was in the streets.
Yeah.
So it took me, so after that, it took me a couple months. Mind you, I'm still pregnant with my daughter. It took me a couple months to actually start taking medication and even opening up about it, because it was like it was a lot. It was a lot to take in,
Of course.
So I remember the first person I told, which was my baby father's sister, and she was really upset because I remember him and his sister having a conversation when me and him first met. And I remember her telling him, did you tell her everything about you? And I'm thinking, how the family members be like, hey, he crazy. I'm thinking it's something like that. He bipolar. Okay, we both bipolar. We good,
Yeah.
So I'm not catching on because I didn't expect that.
Of course.
So, I talked to her, and, she consoled me. She gave me what I was looking for, and, right then and there, she walked me through the whole medication thing. It was totally like, Meca, I'm here for you. Like, I do apologize for, but I'm here for you. So, I got on medication, and I was taking maybe like 8 medications a day.
Wow.
And I didn't like it because the medication would make me so sick. I would feel so weak when I took the medication. But I knew I had to take it, and the medication just wasn't for me. Had it been just for me, I probably wouldn't have took it. But mind you, I had a baby inside of me, So
So you're taking the medication. Let's go back a little bit here. So this guy who was kind of just like a client turned now, relationship turned now father of your child.
Yeah.
Obviously you're in the world of sex work. That's how he met you. You know what I mean? Do you continue to do sex work while you're pregnant?
Yeah.
How did he feel about that?
Well, he was also into drugs. So, but he was more like what did they say, a functioning addict?
Okay.
I don't know how he do it. I don't know how anybody do it, because me, I gotta pick a side.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that. Ain't no in between with me,
Right.
baby.
Yeah.
So he's maintaining, So but he would go to the store and be like, hey, I'm going to the store, and leave his homeboy there. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like that. It started off like that, but eventually it got to, hey, guy want to come and see you again. And then it was like, okay, it was a normal thing.
So it was never really a discussion about do this to get money so
No.
that we can have drugs or do this so that we can get drugs. It was just like an unspoken thing, but you knew without the verbal communication what was
Right.
up.
Right.
So do you now, obviously at this point in life, understand that that was a form of grooming that he was doing to
Now I
you?
do. Now I
Okay.
do.
But then you didn't
No,
understand it.
I didn't, because I was staying in one of his I was staying with him in his building.
Yeah.
So I didn't care.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the street getting high and drinking. I was there. You know.
So even while being pregnant, you're still doing sex work.
Yeah.
Are you still using and drinking alcohol?
Yeah.
Okay. So you never stopped using, you never stopped drinking alcohol, you
No.
never stopped doing sex work.
No.
Okay. So fast forward, does that lead to complications? Does that lead to like all the way up until you going into labor, you were using
Yeah.
and drinking?
Yeah.
Okay, so walk me up until the point where you finally go into labor.
Okay. So I remember. I remember being in his room, and he was in the bed laying down, and I was sitting up in a chair in his room, and I remember drinking, and I remember getting a really bad cramp. It wasn't gas. It was a really bad cramp. And I'm still drinking because eventually it'll stop, It'll stop. And then like my water broke. So I'm still sitting there drinking. When my water broke, I wasn't getting no cramps. The cramps come and go, cramps come and go. So then I eventually woke him up and was like, hey, you got to take me to the hospital, because I'm getting ready to have this baby. And when I get there, I was supposed to have a C-section. So I didn't have a C-section. I was very irresponsible. I just believe that every woman should have vaginal birth. But because I'm HIV positive, I couldn't. I had to get cut. But I didn't want that. So it was a risk of me having my daughter vaginally. I had her. By the grace of God, she's not positive at all. That's good. But when she was a baby, just a baby, that wail, because she wasn't crying, it was a wail, because she was born addicted, and that sound, I just cannot get that sound out of my head. My daughter is a little over 18. She'll be 19 this year. I still hear that sound when I think of it, because I would think that me being pregnant would have me stop drinking and using drugs. Me finding out I was HIV positive would have me stop drinking and using drugs. Me hearing her crying after she was born, but no, none of that made me stop drinking and using drugs.
Wow. So, although she was not born into this world HIV positive, she did have another set of complications because you were an addict at the time and
Correct.
now birthed a baby who was essentially an addict as well.
Yeah.
What were some of the complications that she struggled with?
Well, like I said, the crying, the withdrawals from not having opiates, the alcohol withdrawals, the heroin withdrawal. Like she went through all that, and not just that. Like she went through like a lot of She has ADHD.
Okay.
So that very well could be some of the cause. I could have very well caused that. My daughter, she also has separation anxiety. Like, because I was in and out of her life so much as a kid growing up. I say, all right, I'm coming. I'll come and see you soon. And 2 months later, I'm locked up. So you told me you was coming, and that really put a damper on a lot of things. But it wasn't until my daughter was like 10, 11, 12 years old when I told her, hey, this is why mommy, this, that, and the third. And I told her. because I didn't want anybody else to tell her. Even though nobody told her,
Hmm.
but still, I want to tell her.
Right. And having a baby who is born with those type of complications, does CPS get in on this now?
No, actually, they did, but that it was kind of open and closed
Okay.
because as soon as I had her, I my daughter father and my family, my aunts and my cousins and my godmother, all of them
Stepped
raised her.
in.
They stepped in, so she didn't have to go in the system. So that was a blessing right there.
Yes. Yes, and thank God for that.
Yeah.
All right. So at any point after getting your diagnosis, do you say anything to the father of your child, like, because you're starting to piece it together, right? You say you remember this conversation that his sister had a while ago when you guys had first gotten together, like, hey, did you tell her everything? And then even when you get your diagnosis, you go to that same sister and she walks you through the steps of what you need to do because she's a nurse.
Right.
So low key, you're piecing it all together, like
All
the
of it.
signs were
Yeah.
there
All
and
of
I
it.
just didn't see it. So after getting this diagnosis, do you ever go to him and say, hey, like, I'm HIV positive. Like, do you know you have it? Do you have it? Do you think he is even the one who gave it to you?
You know what? I'm gonna say this because, like I said again, I was very promiscuous.
Okay.
I was very promiscuous. I was out in them streets, and I'm sure I ran across a guy or two that was positive. But when I got positive was when I started dealing with him. Yes, I was still in the streets,
Right.
but he's also positive. So I kind of put that in that. I maybe mislabeling him as giving it to me, but I strongly feel that he gave it to me because he didn't tell me he had it.
Right. And again, all the signs were there once you
Yeah.
start piecing it
Yeah.
together and understanding.
Yeah.
So,
Even
wow.
till this very day, like, so when I go up north to see my daughter, like he doesn't even come in the house. He will. All right. He doesn't even, like, if me and my daughter go somewhere, he might just come over his sister's house. Hey, how you doing? Da, da, da. All right. Well, tell us, say hi. Like, he doesn't even. We don't even like, no conversation or anything. But to this day, like, I remember a couple months ago, I talked to him and I was like, "Hey, how are you?" He was like, "Oh, I'm blessed and good health, thanks to Allah." He'll say something like that, and I'm just like, "Bro, like, you don't even have to do all that. Just answer the question.
Yeah.
How are you? I'm good, Meca. How are you?" That's come on now.
It's an admission to guilt, too, there.
Exactly.
You
Like,
know?
why are you telling me I'm in good health too? You equals you. I'm undetectable, baby. Come on now.
Period.
So yeah.
Period. Okay, so thankfully you have this tribe that steps in and takes over, helping to raise your daughter because even after you give birth to your child, you're back in the streets struggling with addiction
Yeah.
and going back to sex work, right?
Yeah.
So at what point do you decide I want to get sober?
Wow. So my 20s and 30s, I don't remember them years at all.
Okay.
I don't remember them. But I can say when I decided that I didn't want to live that life anymore is when I moved down here to Florida
Okay.
almost 3 years ago.
Was there anything that happened before that, like, that made you think, like, okay, this might be the time where I can...
Okay, yeah. So back in 2018, when COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a 20-year jail sentence. 20-year sentence, right? So I'm away now. I'm done. I'm done. And this sentence wasn't like any of my other sentence because, like, whenever I'm locked up, like, I'm not a good inmate at all. Like, like, I didn't go to jail to break the law. So this jail sentence was different. But at the time I was on Supermax. And I remember the CO coming to my door and he was like, you got a pro visit. And I'm like, what? I don't have no pro visit. I got 20 years. What are you talking about? So anyway, I go to the pro visit and it was my public defender. And he like, hey, you want to go home? And I'm like, yeah. Excuse me again. I don't know what day of the week that was, but I know he was like, I can have you back in court as early as next Wednesday. No, he didn't say you want to go home if you snitch. He didn't say that. That agreement was that I had to do an 8505 program. An 8505 program up north, it's a mental health and substance abuse evaluation, something that I've never had my whole years that I've been in and out of jails and institutions, locked up for substances, locked open contain. Never had anything like that offered to me. So they offered me this. They offered me the assessment. So I take the assessment, and they like, yeah, she has a drug and alcohol problem and mental health issues, right? So we go back in front of the judge and plead my case. Hey, let her go home, because COVID hit, and it was just they was trying to get the nonviolent offenses out, and my case, my charges were nonviolent. So I came home, but not home. I went to a inpatient drug treatment program. I mean, I'm talking about with fences and barbed wires, But I'm like, I'm there. I'm not on a rec field. I'm there. So when it was time for me to leave there, I left there. But I went back to my same environment. I went back to. I just wasn't drinking. And I wasn't using, but I was still in the mix. I was still, hey, who's selling food stamps? I was still, hey, you got any boosters? I was still in the mix. And that's why I say that I'm just not in recovery for drugs and alcohol. I'm in recovery for criminal thinking as well and criminal behaviors. Because I tell you, boy, I done had some times. So anyway, I'm still in the mix. So my partner at the time, she has diabetes, and it got really bad. So her family like, hey, Meca, bring her down here to Florida. And I'm like, I don't want to. We good. And they like, nah, bring her down here because she don't have any family up there. All I'm moved down here.
Okay.
So they like, you can come with her. So I'm like, all right. So I comes down here, I'm down here with her. When I got down here, I was offered a set of keys to a car, house key, the passcode to the house, and I was given an allowance every week.
Wow.
And just to see that she gets to her appointments, she needs medications, everything like that, et cetera, et cetera. So then I start working. I was living in Kissimmee, started working at the Big Lots, and everything was going good, except I just didn't have a program. I didn't have a support system. Every time I wanted to take a drink, I would just look at my shoes and look at my tennis shoes and look at the things I got, and I say, nah, not today. But I was just barely holding on because I know if I would have went out there, I wouldn't have none of that nice stuff. Like, because when I was out there, I had like three socks, not 3 pairs of socks, just 3 socks, one shoe, if I even had a shoe on.
Wow.
Like it was bad for me, So anyway, I seen a guy on the road with a sign, trying to ask for money, And when I seen her, I pulled up. I'm like, come on, get in, take me to get this, that, and the third. And that's the day that I used again.
Because you knew he was going to know where
you going. He might as well say, Meca, I'm right here.
I got the drugs.
I got it. I got this one. He got that one. He might as well said that because that was it. That was game on. And I relapsed. And that's because I didn't have a system. I didn't have a support system. I was just holding on. I was thinking that if I don't drink or do anything, I'll be good. But it wasn't that. I needed that network. I needed good people in my life that's going to show me, So anyway, I wound up getting a new charge. Mind you, I'm on parole and probation for Maryland. I did all the paperwork right, though, to come down here, get it transferred and everything. So I'm on parole and probation. I caught a whole new charge. So I'm over there in Osceola Detention Center, and it's wild because they gave me a bail. They gave me a bail. I was not supposed to get a bail, only because I'm on parole and probation.
Mm-hmm.
So they gives me a bail. Now I'm searching for bail bondsmen to bond me out. Nobody will bond me out. The bond was a couple hundreds. It was nothing. Nobody would bail me out because they like, hey, you're a flight risk because you're on parole and probation in another state. So I'm like, man, I got it in my head, and I ain't going nowhere. So I'm like, nah, I got to try this thing again. So anyway, I get a bail bombing, and he bails me out, and he's like, you're everything I don't do, but I'm going to pull you. So he bailed me out. And when I got bailed out, I continued to do the same thing.
Oh my gosh, Meca.
But this time was different because
Okay.
I died.
When you say you died, how did you die?
I overdosed and died off of fentanyl.
Wow.
And this was at Advent Health in Kissimmee. I died, right there in the parking lot.
You flatlined.
I flatlined. So this is what happened. I went there to get some help because I'm like, man, I'm on parole, probation. Got to get ready to go see my PO Monday. They might take me back up north. All the things that's going on in my head. I'm like, I got to do something to get these people off my back.
Right.
Because I didn't want to stop using and drinking. I just wanted to learn how to slow down.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I want to learn how to do it on a weekend or
Okay.
just every other day, So so I go to the hospital. I'm getting ready to check myself in. Hey, I'm getting ready to whack myself. Y'all got to do something with me. So they takes me up to that floor, and next thing you know, I just remember seeing me in a bed, standing. I was laying in the bed, but I was looking at myself, and I seen the doctors they was on my feet with the thing, and they was on my eye with the thing, and there was nothing. She's not responding, no responding. And then I remember waking up, and it was one of the people that worked there sitting in a corner monitoring me, And
So you took drugs prior to going there,
yes,
and you had just got to the point knowing that you had taken too much. Like,
yeah. I mean,
thank God you went.
I probably had something on me. I don't,
Wow.
So, but yeah, so I think that my last bit that I did, that's what sent me into the overdosing. And I just remember when I got there, I said, hey, I need to get a bed. And they like, okay, we'll get you in. And I just remember walking outside. And when I walked outside, I remember just waking up in that room. So how they got me from there to there, I don't remember that. So but anyway, so they was getting ready to release me, and I say, no, don't release me. I say, you release me, I say, I'm gonna kill myself. So that's when they sent me to a psych ward in Sanford, Florida. It was Aspire Health Partners, and I got in front of that doctor, and I said, listen, I said, I don't want to kill myself. I said, but I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stay clean. And he was like, all right, I got you. He didn't say it like that, but he used the medical term.
Right.
You know what I mean? That
Big
term.
words.
Yeah, big words, So he's like, all right, I got you. So they sent me to a place in Seminole County, and I stayed there for 9 months working on me. Mind you, when I first got there, I'm still on the parole and probation. I got the new drug charge. The new charge. It wasn't a drug charge. I got the new charge. I don't know if they're going to violate me. I got to see what Florida going to do first before Baltimore do their thing. So I'm in there. Voices in my head yelling at me, get up and run. They're going to lock you up. You're going to get that 20 years and plus what you're going to get for Florida. You might as well go out there and party one last time until they catch you. That's what the voice was yelling in my head. I got on methadone because of the voices. I needed something. Because my mind kept going, I got on methadone. And the methadone was making me feel like I needed a drink. I needed some more drugs because the methadone to me was just something to... It actually tricks your brain to making you thinking it's an opiate, but it's a good kind. I don't think any of it is a good kind, but that's what they say. That's a good kind. And it was tricking my brain. It was having my brain thinking that I was using. So now I can make it through the day. And every morning I had to drink this methadone in order for my brain to be on chill mode. But I say, nah, I got to get off of this because it's making me inch my way to that door more and more every day. Because I know if I leave out of here on methadone, I'm be down there. Mike, you good? You on? I already know how it's going to go down. So I got off of methadone. And when I say that was the toughest withdrawals, I withdrew off of methadone for almost 6 months, without doctor's orders. They wanted to keep me on it. But nah, I got to do this for me. So anyway, I wound up getting off it, but backing up a little bit, they dropped my charges here in Florida. So when they dropped my charges here, I still don't understand how they dropped the charges when you can clearly see me on the camera. That's me. Like, I might as well did like this in front of the camera because it was me, but they dropped those charges. So now I'm good. Probation and parole, I'm good with them because Florida dropped the charges. Now I'm starting to realize God might just be favoring me. Maybe I do have a purpose. I don't know. When the light flicked on for me and I realized that I don't just want to slow down, I want to stop. I don't know when that light clicked on for me, but it did when I was in Seminole. And after I left Seminole, the halfway house in Seminole County, I went to a halfway house in Sanford, Florida, that's where I got closer to God at. Like, that's when I started talking to him. Like, bro, it's me again, Splinter Block. Please, I need to holler at you. Like, that's where I got closer to God at. And now I'm here today, drug free, no alcohol, no nothing.
How long have you been sober so far?
Almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years for me in September.
Wow, congratulations.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, my sobriety date is 9/22/22.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is amazing. You have quite a story, let me tell you. Yeah. One thing we did not talk about is when and at what point did you become undetectable?
Oh, as far as I can remember, I've always been undetectable.
So you did keep up with taking your medication?
I mean, no, I ain't saying that now.
Okay.
I ain't saying that now. That's how. Once again, God is favoring me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand, because when I was in them streets and stuff, I didn't take my meds. That's the last thing I was worried about. My life was unmanageable. I couldn't even manage to brush my teeth.
Yeah.
That took too much work for me to do. Now I'll get a drink, But yeah, I haven't always taken my meds consistently.
But today you are undetectable.
I'm undetectable today.
And officially, as of today, how long have you been living with HIV?
Almost 20 years.
20 years.
Almost 20 years.
You have an incredible story, Meca.
Yeah.
Talk to me about some of the things you have accomplished now that you have been operating as this sober version of yourself.
Oh my goodness. I can't stop getting to it, Koiya.
I love this.
Can't stop getting to it. So I'm working on a certification for the Florida Certification Board, for a certified recovery peer specialist. But I canceled that one out because I want to do the community health worker certification. But they put a little halt on it right now because of my background. Okay. I gotta tell them about 21 charges, So, and I prayed about it, and I was gonna give up. And then the people's emailed me yesterday and was like, "Nah, you good. Don't worry about the 21 charges. Just tell us about 4 of these charges. That's all we want." So 4 out of 21. So now later on tonight, I'm gonna go in and put it on the. They sent me the link, So I'm working on that. I have a high school diploma. Not only do I have a high school diploma, I have a valid driver's license. I didn't have one when I came down here. Yeah, I was driving around. Yeah, I was given a car, but I didn't have a driver's license. Like, I got car insurance in my name.
I know that's right.
You know what I mean? So I do that, and I also do my outreach. I do outreach with Inspiration and Change. I work for Miracle of Love. Like it's just I can't stop learning. I can't stop linking people to services. I cannot stop helping, because I know when I deal with most of the homeless population. Mm-hmm. And I tell them all the time when I do my events and stuff, I tell them all the time where you was at. I was there. That's why I love going to the shelters, the homeless shelters. Man, when I go there, I kick my feet up. I'm home. Miss Meca, you want something to eat? Yeah, because I'm home. Yeah. Because I know how I was in their shoes. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've done a lot. But most importantly, I got closer to God. Yes. Closer to God.
And it sounds like, because you mentioned earlier in this story that once the nurse gave you your diagnosis, she didn't operate with any empathy and it was very nonchalant. But it sounds like you became the peer that you wanted and needed at the time that you got your diagnosis.
Yes.
And do you think that is the drive for you to do everything you're doing today?
So I go to work every morning for my clients. them giving me a paycheck to do it, that's just a bonus,
Yeah.
because I was doing this type of work for free before I started working with the company I'm with. But that's just a bonus them paying me. But I love when people come in the office and get tested, and I have to tell them, hey, even if it do come back like this, you good. You good. Like, we gonna link you to serve. We're not just gonna let you leave out of here. We good. And everybody that I came in contact with that sat in that chair, they can I hug you? Yeah, sure. Come on, bring it in. You know what I mean? Oh, you made me feel so comfortable. Oh, this is my first time, and you made it. Yeah, it's your first time, and your second time gonna be 3 months from now, and come on back in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I love it because I am that person that I wanted to come to me 20 years ago.
I love that. This is the perfect segue into our final segment. It's called Give Them Their Flowers. Now, first off, I want to apologize because I don't have your physical flowers to give to you today. Normally, we do have that, but my baker was out of town, and it also is my fault that I didn't let him know ahead of time, so I will be delivering those to Miracle of Love for you.
Yes.
But I do want to give you your flowers in the form of words. For your level of vulnerability, for being able to open up and talk transparently about your struggles, for calling on God in times that you know you could not do it by yourself, for remaining steadfast in your journey of sobriety, for not only living with HIV, but now becoming an advocate and getting certified to test and counsel and making it a part of your mission. I know you are going to do great things beyond this. So tell us what's next for Meca. I know we discussed something about an ebook possibly on the way.
Yes.
And also let everyone know where they can check you out on social media and how they can look forward to the ebook when it is on the way.
So the ebook is definitely gonna hit June the 28th. June the 28th is my birthday, and I want to do it on my birthday because that's what I was born.
Yeah.
And if you want to contact me, I know I got what is that called, a TikTok? I know I got a
TikTok?
TikTok, but I don't know it. I don't listen. Just reach me on Facebook. It's
Yes.
Tessa TESSA TESSA. If you connect with me on Facebook Messenger, all the support and all that. Like, I like all that. I need all that. I want to keep going. Let's just keep this thing going.
Yes, I love it. All right, Meca, thank you so much for being here.
No problem.